Today's session, we're going to be talking about secrets of 24 e-commerce gurus. So who doesn't want to know all of the skinny about this realm? Because so many of the businesses that join us here on Digital Boost are e-commerce businesses. So this is going to be a great session to enlighten us with the guru's knowledge. So Travis O'Keefe is here with us today from Nuku, and he's going to be talking to this point. Now, a little bit about these sessions. They are recorded. So if you're with us on Zoom, you can still get access to the session later. It'll get emailed to you in a thank you for attending email, but you can find any of the sessions we've run to date in the in case you missed it section on the main dashboard of Digital Boost. Now, if you're streaming with us on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, you know you can access it at any time. Please drop your questions in the comment section, the Q&A section, or any of the chat features on the various platforms. Travis is excited to ask or answer questions rather throughout the session. And so let's make this as an interactive as possible and as bespoke to your business as possible. So these sessions are for you. Make it about you. That's why these guys are here. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to tell you a competition is going live today, okay? And I just want to get my paper because I don't want you to miss out on anything. So today we have a competition going live, and you can win a Mac Pro, a screen, a desk, a package of about $4,000, and Xero has actually thrown in a package as well. So in order to register for that competition, you need to be registered to digitalboost.co.nz. So if you're streaming with us on one of the other platforms, make sure you register because you don't have access otherwise. Okay, to get points in the drawer, you need to log into your account or register. You can get additional points by referring a friend. So once you register and sign up for the competition, scroll down, and on the bottom, there'll be ways for you to share it out, and you get different points for what platforms you share it out on. So this is going to end Monday, the 11th of October. Don't miss out. Who doesn't want a new computer? I mean, really, like, get yourself some new gear, and it's such an easy way to do it. So just a reminder, if you need any help, contact support at digitalboost.co.nz because we're here to help. Travis, thanks so much for joining us today from WA. So it's like, 5 a.m. for you.
Hey, kia ora. Yeah, it's early. Thanks, Anna Marie.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Honestly, I'm so glad you were able to join us, and you specialize in this area, and your business has a really big mission. And so I'm going to drop off now. I'm going to let you kind of talk to that. Kia ora, Nella, and I'll make sure everything's running in the background.
Nice one. Kia ora, everyone. My name is Travis O'Keefe. I am from a tribe called Ngāti Porou, Ngāti Kanohi, on the East Cape of the North Island of New Zealand. Currently, I'm beaming in from Western Australia. We're opening an office over here, so I'm trapped over the other side of the ditch. By way of background, cut a long story short, I'm an entrepreneur and a serial one. I've been doing it for 30 years, had multiple businesses and many different industries, everything from tech to investment to health to now I have a couple of businesses too. One is called Te Whare Hoka Hoka, which has the vision to improve the lives of 10 million Indigenous people. We do that through capability building or education and training, governance training, strategic planning, working with Indigenous tribes, or e-commerce. Over the other side, I've got a business, which is why I'm representing that hat today, which is called Nuku. Nuku is a e-commerce agency. Nuku also has its own e-commerce business. So we're not just theorists, we're practitioners. We manufacture products in China under 6 different brands. We send all that product over to the US and we compete on e-commerce, both via Shopify, Path to Market, as well as Amazon. And a wide range of products, gardening products, pet products, homeware, barbecue, yeah, quite a few different things. And we've got some unique methods of how we do that. But today, just to give you some context about might be 3 or 4 years ago, I studied 24 e-commerce gurus. And when I mean studied, I became like a stalker. I went deep. I consumed every bit of media that they had. So I watched all their YouTube channels. I did their workshops. I read their white papers. I signed up on their websites. And for some of them, I did their masterclasses. And in doing all that across all 24, I noticed some patterns. I noticed that we're doing some things the same across all 24. And it was then that, that I realized, hey, like those must be the keys that they're all using to create success. So I took those, I applied them, and that's how I began Nuku. And I grew Nuku applying these techniques. So I know they really work well. And I'm just going to share my insights about that experience today. And I welcome any questions, and I can make it relevant for you. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, the secrets of 24 e-commerce gurus. So I studied these 24 e-commerce gurus. I noticed some patterns over 2 years. These are some of the names, not all of the names, but we have here Russell Brunson, the founder of ClickFunnels, an amazing US e-commerce entrepreneur. His company is now worth over $100 million. We had Akbar Sheikh, Peter Prue, James Kemp, who's a Kiwi. I studied with James. He's an amazing cat. Kevin David, an American. Neil Patel, an American. Ping Jun from Malaysia. Danny McMillan from the UK. Sabri Subri is an Australian, and so forth. Some of you may not know these names, but you can Google them later. They all had 7- and 8-figure e-commerce businesses. So they were all practical and pragmatic and not theorists. And a really good practical entrepreneur is someone who could be specific in their instructions. Some people who are theorists, they generally describe things at a high level, very theoretical, and they are unable to break it down. Actually, how do you apply that? Like step A, I do this, step B, I do this, and so forth. All these guys were at that level, and that's the indicator that I use that these guys actually do it. So from that, I found some patterns. If you want a little bit more about these, I've got another podcast series. You can reach out to me. I'm across a lot of different social media, but the one place you can get hold of me directly is through my Instagram accounts, which is Travis O'Keefe NZ. You'll find me with the orange icon there. If you DM me, I will send you a link to all this information and more around the 24 e-commerce gurus. So let's get into this. Anna Marie. So they all had similar things around the business plan, and it's made up of 3 things in their business plan. They all had clear customer avatars. And a customer avatar, there are different ways to say that. Some people use it by a persona. Other people call it a target market. The one big thing about these e-commerce gurus, though, is they didn't teach their target market as a group. They looked at it as one person, and they described the relationship and all the insights about this one person. And they did everything. They looked at things like where they congregate together and hang out. They looked at their websites that they consumed, and they drilled right in. They had a lot of data around this, and then they built this persona out, and then they became very focused in their strategies and their tactics to reach this consumer. The second thing that they had which is a massive asset in any business. In fact, I think it's the number one asset for an e-commerce business. It's often underrated by other people who are in traditional businesses, is their customer database. Is another way. In e-commerce, they call it a list of potential customers. And in e-commerce, what they did is they had really interesting techniques about how they built this list. And then what they did is they remarketed or retargeted that list over and over to monetize the list for over a year, trying to increase the lifetime value of people on that list and how many times they purchased a year. The third element that they had in it was something called a value ladder. And a value ladder is really interesting. And what that is basically is if you can imagine a ladder with different rungs, and at the bottom rung, you earn a conversation with your potential customer by giving them something free and valuable. And once they've had that and they consume that, then you escalate them up the value ladder to the next rung. And the next rung is, as an entrepreneur, you want to understand what the potential customer is trying to achieve. And you want to understand in the next stage of their journey, what is the most valuable thing? And then that's where you create your product or service and you sell the customer into that next step. So they go from free up to $27 product, and up to the next rung is like a $200 product, up to the next rung is a $2,000 product. And then the master classes generally that I went to are like $18,000 products or to 20,000. And so that's the way that they escalated up. And the goal is they did all that by using tools and technology to automate it all. So to automatically slowly build people up and take it up. So it wouldn't consume much of their time. So their models, their business models are very scalable. So that's the first part. These are similar business plans. I'm open to taking some questions about this as I unpack this deeper. I've got 3 or 4 more slides, which we go deeper, right down to the tactical level. Anna Marie, would you like to?
I don't really have a question as yet, but I'm loving this. I'm wondering, although we could give discounts or like something free, is it okay for us to do add-ons instead?
You mean
too
value
far
adds?
up? Like, so for example, sometimes when we don't have, like, we're really not getting good price point on our product to begin with because we don't have a lot of product going out. Would it be okay to say, oh, you know, if you buy this, you get a free like thing with that, instead of saying you can have 20% off?
Yeah, one thing I noticed about them is they had different approaches. One time they had, they would do something called free plus shipping. So they would offer a book or some knowledge in the front end, and they would say, hey, you can get the book for free. All you got to do is pay for the cost of the shipping out to you. And the cost of the shipping actually covered the cost of the book. And so they were still breaking even, not taking much losses and giving it out. So that was one approach. Another approach was, hey, you pay for the book, I'll pay for the shipping. It's the same thing. They're just repurposing or repositioning the offer in the front end. Or
so yeah, kind of embedding the cost, as it were.
Yeah, for sure. It's really important later on as we go down to the tactical level and some of the lessons. Yeah, you'll see why it's important in the whole context. But yeah, there's lots of different ways in the front end to incentivize people to come into your value ladder. And in the value ladder, some people come in at the bottom because they want the free stuff, but other people will come in, mid-value ladder because they're at a different stage in their business life cycle. And so, yeah, there's entry not just in one necessarily at the bottom of that ladder.
I love that. I haven't heard about that before, so that was really cool. So the question here is, hi Laura, what are some of the apps they might have used to map this journey?
What are some of the apps to map this journey? I'm guessing that means, like, how would they record it, or what
like,
were they using?
How would you automate this, or how? I think that's what you're saying, Laura, is that, like, how do you make this work for you? Do you use things like MailChimp, or do you use like things like that? Yes.
Yes, good one, Laura. Yes, they did. They use different software. Some people use ClickFunnels, other people use Shopify, other people use MailChimp or autoresponders. So there are lots of different tools, but I just want to make a really, really important point here the tools or the tech is only 10 to 20% of this.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is the value is in the other 80%. There's the most value is in the subtleties or the marketing techniques. That's so that which I unpack later on in this conversation and walk you through that. But to answer that question, if you had a value ladder, you'd bring a customer and they'd consume your free product or your $27 product, and then you would use email marketing as one way to bring them back into your value ladder and go up to the next stage.
Mm-hmm.
So and then you'd bring them back in again with email marketing.
Yeah.
Most of these guys used email marketing as one of the keys, as opposed to building their audiences out on the social media platforms.
And you know Glenn from Spike, well, you might not know him, Travis, but we know him here on this platform. He talks all the time about an email customer is an $11 customer versus a social media customer who's usually like a $1 or $2 customer. So the return is much higher if you've got them funneled into your email marketing. So here's a question. Is it good to give a 50% cost price of a product item to get them to visit the website?
Yeah, I think so that's a business strategy question. And in business, one of the things I've learned, there are certain levers, metrics that you can use or move and improve. And one of those metrics, which is relevant to this question, is called the lifetime value of your customer. The lifetime value of a customer is over a 1 year period. How many times do they purchase? So if they purchase from you once, then your goal is, how do I get them to purchase from you twice, 3 times, and grow per customer?
Right.
And so when you have that and you understand what your lifetime value is, then in the front end, what these guys would all do is they would offer, so if their lifetime value was $100, and then the front end, the cost of the product that they're giving away was $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, you have, once you understand that lifetime value and you give it away for $50, which is 50% off, and you're generating $100 over their lifetime value, you're still going away with $50. So
so you need to keep looping them in so that you can make that money back. So that would be
so that's why the lifetime value is such an important metric, because you need to understand that, so that in the front end, your beginning of the relationship with them, you understand how much money you've got to allocate into customer acquisition.
Mm-hmm. That does make sense. So how do you, as a startup, a lot of us are startups, right? So we don't really have that data to know what that life cycle is. What do you recommend to businesses that are just getting started to be able to anticipate that? Or is that something that you chat with an accountant about
No, there's different ways. I mean, it depends. It's a great question. Different ways. If you're on the Shopify platform, which is an e-commerce platform, it captures it. So there are metrics built into Shopify, and that's one easy way to do it. You can do it manually too if you aren't on, or you're running a hybrid model where you're going directly to the customer through the markets or through pop-up stores, and then through the other side you're using e-commerce. Well, when you're at the markets, offer a prize to get people to write down their name and address. And once you have their name and address, record it into a spreadsheet, either Excel or Google Sheets, and then just track how many times they come and purchase. So it could be as simple as that. The main thing is just the tracking of it, or it could be advanced using other tools. But it's just tracking how many times per year.
I wonder too, in that market situation, because I've always kind of recommended having a QR code so that people can kind of follow you. That's what I think is a cool way to engage. But I think that the difference between another cool element with having an address, it allows you to play with your ads a little bit. So if these people are coming from this region, I know that I should target that region because that's where a lot of my customers are coming from. So understanding where a lot of your customers come from enables you to target them in a different way, marketing wise.
Yeah, for sure. It's another key that you've just come across is, once you have a list of customers, is how do you best segment them into groups and then do an offer relevant to that group. For example, if they're a new customer and they've just built a relationship, you want to love that person because that's a new customer and you want to increase the lifetime value. So what other things can you do for that new person to maintain that relationship versus if that's a customer and they're one of your best buyers, i.e. they at the other end, they buy multiple times in a year, what other incentives can I offer to my best buyer group? Or if they're mums, what do I offer mums? Or if they're dads, what do I offer dads? Like you can really carve up your database or your list and then target it. It's one of the keys, target specific offers relevant to each segment.
Cool. It says, Kia ora, my MailChimp automatically records purchases from my WooCommerce shop so I can see what each customer has purchased in the past. Just saying. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Sammy. Kia ora. Awesome. Yeah, it does do that. That's really cool. That's one of the ways that we can automate these systems. And it's a good reminder that a lot of our platforms have integrations with other things, meaning that they talk to each other. And that's like a really cool way to make sure that you're on top of your data. Yeah. I'm gonna drop off and make sure that everything's going in the back, and I'll let you can continue.
Cool. I'll jump back into the presentation. Okay, so just unpacking the next layer that they went to is they went down to the business strategy. So we talked about the business plan. They had those three things. Then I noticed some patterns, 4 important patterns, which is they acquired customers profitably. So inside each business, I talked about there's some different levers, some metrics that you want to focus on. One is lifetime value. Another one is CAC, or customer acquisition costs. And a lot of businesses, most businesses that I coach don't do this. And it's really important because it tells you how much your sales and marketing costs are. And you want to work out in your business and pull out of the financials, what are my sales and marketing costs to acquire this customer? And you want to look at it from a traditional route, which is non-e-commerce, and look at those costs. It might cost you $1,000. And then so if you have that figure in mind, then you go, how else can I acquire this customer for less than $1,000? Or if it's $100 it costs you to acquire that customer, how else can I use that $100 to be much more effective in acquiring customers? And why this is important, because if you work this out and you can get customers at break-even costs, so for example, if you acquired them for $100 but in that you would generate in that experience of acquiring them, you would earn back from them $100, and therefore it's break even. Then now you have the foundation to really scale your e-commerce model, because you're acquiring customers at a break even cost, and then you're using the value ladder to escalate them up your value ladder and make them more profitable. So hopefully that makes sense. They acquired customers profitably, and how they did that is they had a system, an e-commerce system. And that's really, really important, because a lot of people out in the market, what they push out there is just build a website and people will come. And it's just not true. A website does not work by itself. There are 3 elements to a system that all these guys had. In the front end, they had a way to warm up cold traffic, which means to warm up, that means that the potential customers, which is traffic, had understood they had a problem and understood that you were out there solving that problem. That's what warmed up traffic looks like. So that's the first part of the system that these guys had. The second part of the system they had is a web page, a web store, a landing page, lots of different language for it, that took those potential customers once they came into their store and converted them into a sale. And then the third part of the system is an autoresponder, relevant to the question before. And the autoresponder brought them back into their store to purchase the next thing on the value ladder. And they did that through MailChimp, through Klaviyo, 2 of the ones that we use. So that was a really, really important thing, acquiring customers properly. Then the second dot there is about, they had a really strong focus on repeat sales. So they had the viewpoint that I would break even on the first sale I make to a new customer, but I would make all my profits and super profits on the second sale, on the third sale, on the fourth sale, and so forth. So they had this relentless focus going, I'm going to give away whatever costs it takes to acquire customers in the front end, profitably. And then I'm going to focus on how do I escalate them up the value ladder. The metric that you use to measure that is the lifetime value, which I talked about before. The third thing that they did is they used data to optimize their e-commerce system, not guesses. Most people guess. And the challenge that I've experienced when I guess things in the past as I was a startup or early stage entrepreneur is a lot of my guesses were wrong. Things that I thought would be effective were not effective. Because the market decides, your customers decide what is effective. So the thing that these guys did is they did tests. They tested a lot. And then they took each test, they captured some data, and they used that data to decide on what they should do to optimize inside their e-commerce system. And this is a really important thing. I only discovered the optimization piece when I went to the master classes of all these gurus. They give you a whole lot of stuff in the front end, but I think one of the gold is how to optimize your e-commerce system. And what optimize means is in the front end, you build your e-commerce system, but the stage after that is optimizing or tweaking it, like a car, like a hot rod, or like a fast engine. You've got to tinker with things inside it to make it more efficient and more effective. And to do that, you need potential customers, traffic coming into your store and seeing how they behave through your store. You learn from their behavior, and then you tweak things inside your e-commerce system so that it becomes profitable for your traffic to go through the system. And they did that through data. This is another big tip. It doesn't matter whether you're in e-commerce or even a traditional business, but using data rather than guesses. And then the fourth thing that they did is automation. This is the thing that makes it really scalable. So they used different automated tools, like the previous question. One was an autoresponder, MailChimp, ClickFunnels is another software tool. There are many of them out there. Shopify have various different themes about it, and others. So remember, it's not about the tech, but it's about how you use the tech and the other stuff, the marketing stuff around it. So these are the 4 things. I'll take some questions on these and unpack that onion if people want.
Yeah, I'm just checking out on Facebook. We've got some just comments just saying, so many great nuggets coming through, and thanks for the awesome korero. So yeah, we're really loving this session. And I guess what I really loved about what you said there, just giving people an opportunity to type if they do have questions, is that it's not about we've got to remember that the tech is not going to do the work for us. Like the tech allows us to do, well, it does do the work for us in a sense, but in another sense, it's like if you have all this data and you're not doing anything with it, then it's not going to really do anything for your business. So it's a great reminder that, we still need to be very present with what's happening in our business and making sure that we evaluate that repeatedly over time in order to find success. So yeah,
for sure. I mean, relevant to that, there are levers, and it's not so much, I'm not covering it in this, but all the gurus, they focused on 4 or 5 metrics between them, roughly 4 or 5.
Okay, great.
And those were the metrics or the levers that they would look at all the time. I think it's important as entrepreneurs, we often don't know what we should measure to actually make an impact on the profits or the revenue or the scalability of our business. And these guys looked at leads. So leads are how many leads am I getting into my system? Mm-hmm. Second point, they looked at conversion. So now that they're coming into my webpage, how many am I converting? The third thing they looked at is now that they're coming into my webpage or store and converting into sales, how do I increase the average order value? The average order value is how many things. So if you're going to the supermarket and you're taking your shopping basket you know, the supermarket's really good at increasing your average order value and getting you to put things into the shopping basket that you wouldn't have normally put in. So that's average order value.
It's the golden rule, isn't it? You go to the shop for one thing and you come out with 20 things. I mean, that's just what happens, isn't it?
It's a science. It's a science. So average order value, and then once you had the average order value, then they would work out profitability. Yeah. So how do you improve the profit of each of those, of that basket of goods, so they're making more profits? And then the last one they had was lifetime value. Those 5 levers or metrics inside your business are important to look at. And once you look at it, there are different things that you can do to change, different tactics that you can apply to change it. So that would be a huge.
And I think like that leads, we talk about leads a lot in some of our sessions, is we've been like, it's starting to be drilled into my head now where I'm going leads, like lead generation. You know, we can get really stagnant with still going after those new folks and bringing new folks in. And I guess you'd probably agree that with the new algorithms that are changing, lead generation is like super important to build your list, because our list is, you know, the data that we can collect on people is becoming less and less. So your list is like, you know, so epically important. And it's the one thing that you can kind of sell when you sell your business, you know, if you don't have a good CRM, like you don't have to have an actual CRM, but if you don't have a good database of customers, you know, people don't see as much value in your business, I guess. Would that be true? Or?
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree with that statement. I think relevant to that in a market, if your competitor's going out of business, then a small tip is to go and cut a deal with them to purchase their list. And that has value, because often people just let that go, and they just let that go with the business. And actually they can make money from that. And if you're a great entrepreneur, you'd go in and say, you know, can I purchase that from you? And then you're just building out your list, and you know, through these techniques, you can monetize that list.
How would you go about like evaluating the value of somebody else's list?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting subject. I guess generally what the gurus say are, it's each person on that list is worth approximately $1 per month. If you set the e-commerce system up and you had a 10,000 person list, that is worth, to a beginner not doing very well in their marketing, it's worth $1. To an expert, it's probably worth $5 to $7.
Okay.
But yeah, that's roughly the price of it. But you know, if you can get it for less than that, that's great.
Yeah, and that's a really great thing to think about, because I think we've talked a lot about competitors and, you know, just having a look at what they're doing, but we haven't talked about that per se of, hey, look, my competitor is going out of business. Like, here's an opportunity, not just to market to them, but actually buy their list. Like, you know, interesting. I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's the one thing I would focus on, not the stock, the list.
Yeah, the list. Cool. And another comment here just saying, awesome kororo, Travis, from another person on our Facebook. I don't see any questions on there. I'm going to drop off and let you keep on going on with your chat, because I want to get as much out of this as I can, and I'll keep jumping on with questions.
Okay, great. Okay. So now we get down to the tactics. So the different strategy is quite high level. The tactics are operational. So these are the things they were applying at an operational level. One thing is around traffic, is these guys all use paid advertising, all of them. And I, really understand the value of this, because I've tried an SEO, search engine optimization route, to get traffic. Remember, traffic is potential customers to come into our store. I've tried that and experimented a lot with it. And the challenge I have with that is important, but in the sequence of things for a startup entrepreneur, is SEO should come later. Don't spend your effort and time on that. And the reason why is because SEO takes 3 to 6 months, depending on your niche, to generate the results. I'll just give you a brief explanation. SEO means search engine optimization. search engine could be Google, could be YouTube, could be Facebook. So that's the search bar in each of those platforms. And you type your keywords of what you're searching for. So that's the search engine. Optimization is optimizing it so that your ad, your web page comes at the top of that search. So that's search engine optimization. The challenge with it is that's slow. It's important, but it's slow. So you don't focus on it, on that one initially. You focus on paid ads. Paid advertising is where you give money to Google, to Facebook for an ad, for them to show your ad to the audience that you're seeking. And it's effective because, and fast, because once you set that up and you pay Mark Zuckerberg, for example, from Facebook some money, it's almost like flicking a light switch on. Suddenly you have traffic coming in. The challenge with it, if it all were that easy, we'd all be rich. But there is a challenge, and the challenge is, how do you acquire customers through paid ads profitably? How do you acquire that customer profitably? Otherwise, you cannot afford, because you lose too much money paying for ads, and the customer comes in, they purchase some things, but the cost of your ads is more than the profits that you earn from each sale. And I spoke about that. Some of the keys to that is looking at the lifetime value and working that out and focused on there, or looking at your average order value. And I'm going to give you a technique of what they did, and then increasing the average order value, or looking at your conversion, your website, and how people interact with it and convert into a sale. So that's paid ads, very, very important. The great thing about paid ads is it makes your business scalable. Once you crack this, the equation of how you use paid ads to acquire customers profitably, which, remember, that was the strategy that we talked about before, is in the strategy they acquired customers profitably, the CAC measure. Once you have that, then you have a very scalable business, and then it's easy to scale, like a lot, because then once you have that formula done, it takes a wee while to get that formula right. You got to measure, optimize, but once you have it right, your business is you can grow very quickly to hundreds, if not millions of dollars. And that's what all these gurus did. The second thing they did is they used a bit of code. They all had cookies. So I don't know whether you guys know, but there's a cookie is a piece of code that tracks you around the internet. And a lot of these guys use that. And they use that to track you around the internet and to look at your behavior of where you go, how long you're on there, and so, a lot of other things, what you purchase. And they use that to track you, and then they used it to target you. So what they would do is they'd inject this piece of code into their web page or their website, and the code would be put in the back end of your website where people cannot see it. Someone would purchase from your website, and this cookie would track that event that you had just purchased from them. And then after a period of time, your pixel, after 50 to 100 sales of your products, your pixel, if you're using Facebook pixel, would know what the characteristics of your customer avatar are, or your target market. Because Facebook is big brotherish, it collects a lot of information. So what happened is your pixel will now go back to Facebook and we go, hey, I can find more of those people. I can find 1,000, 1 million of those people. And it would use its own computer brain algorithm to search and find those people. So that's the pixel. Last two things is they used email marketing. In email marketing, it's not just a matter of sending an email. They did it, a couple of key tips there are not to use the flash, formats. Those don't convert as well as an email that looks like an email. All the gurus use an email. They don't use the border with the flash brand image. They've moved away from that because it doesn't convert as well as a simple email writing to someone, because it must get past people's sales radar. Another thing they used is stories. They told stories. There's some keys I could dive deep into how they told those stories, but that's an important part. I want to touch on this bit because this is really, really important. When someone comes into your store, how do you increase the average order value? And I talked about that's one of the important levers. The big thing that all these gurus did is once someone purchased your product or service, once they post-purchase of buying that product, they had all these different offers. They normally had 3 different offers after your original purchase before you checked right out. So they would take your and it's called the post-purchase upsell. They would upsell you something else. The big number one upsell that they used was more of the same. So if you bought a can of baked beans, for example, when you're leaving, they would offer you a super discount for another 3 cans of baked beans. And what's really surprising is the data shows that that is the most successful converting post-purchase upsell.
Travis, that makes total sense to me though, because especially if it's a consumable item, like something that people would consume repeatedly, or use repeatedly, and you're brand loyal, a lot of times we're quite brand loyal with certain things. I'm going to buy it anyway. So if you then sell it to me now, I'm going to probably buy it. And I reckon just talking about that upsell post-purchase, Amazon is king at that. Like you don't even know if you've left the checkout yet. You're like, have I bought this yet? I'm not sure because I'm still saying skip or everything from gift wrapping to additional items just thrown in there repeatedly, and I guess that's why it works.
That's exactly right. No, you hit it bang on.
I love that.
It converts really, really well. So that would be one tactic to increase your average order value. And remember, your average order value is really important because that gives you additional profits which you can invest into paid advertising. And if you want to really thrive in e-commerce, you want to master paid advertising. And how you master paid advertising is you want to acquire the customers profitably. So that's the sort of like chain of events.
It's like the chicken or the egg kind of situation. Like you want to get the customers, but you want to do it, make sure that you're making money off of those ads, which, I wanted to say 2 things. One, I have lined up a session with Amazon. So for those of you who want to learn more about Amazon, it's going to be coming up at the tail end of October. I haven't finalized all the details, but I have the date. So it's not on the website yet, but it is coming. So know that they're going to do a whole session because they've expanded into the New Zealand market, but it's basically like selling to Australia. So it's a good market for us to sell to anyway. So so that will be happening at the tail end of this month. And we've done some sessions on Facebook ads, but I'm thinking about running another session on Facebook ads. And I'm trying to find somebody to run a session on Facebook pixels. So that's in the works. And then just on your the cookie thing that you were talking about, I think it's important if you wanted to delve deep into that topic. We did do a session. It was absolutely fantastic, called the Cookie Apocalypse. And it was really detailed, but easy to understand. And I'd highly recommend. That was with PR, Lasso Media PR, Hamish Knight, I think, ran that session. And I can get you the link and I'll pop it in the chat. So I'll let you continue. I'm going to grab that link to that session. And I'll let you keep going. Awesome. These are great tips. I'm loving this, Travis. Thank you so much for waking up so early.
Time. No worries. I'm conscious of our time. So, I'm open to taking more questions. I could go deeper into each of these, but we've got 15 minutes left. How do you best want to use that 15?
I'd say, people, here we go. Could you speak more about storytelling, please? Yes.
Yeah. So what these guys did is they had told different stories. And one of the stories, or another way to put this is, in their email autoresponder, their MailChimp, they would send out a series of 5 emails. And each of those emails, they would have 4 things that add value to the customer's journey for the stage that they're at. So in those 4 things, they would offer advice or education. They would understand where the customer avatar is trying to get to at that stage that they're in, and then offer advice that either made it faster, easier, lower cost, or least risk for those customers to get to that goal. They would do 4 of those. They would always wrap a story around it. They would tell their personal story before the tip. So they would say about their own experiences, and they would do it in a way called it's called an epiphany bridge. Epiphany bridge is a really interesting way to sell online. An epiphany bridge is, you don't go, hey, buy me, type writing like here's this offer. An epiphany bridge is you write about the problem that you were having as if you were that customer at that stage, and you write about your story of how you came across the epiphany to change and solve the problem that you had. And that's what you write about, and that's what converts. That's the story. Is you write about your own experience, the problems, what it looked like, and all the pain and suffering that you were having at that stage, and then how you came along and you met someone, for example, and suddenly that guru or that person created an epiphany for you, and you could see how you unlocked it, and that's how you applied it. And that's the way that they frame that story up. And that way that you don't have to sell anything, you don't have to push or promote your product. You're just promoting the epiphany. And that's the natural way that humans solve. So what happens by sharing your own journey, they're feeling the same pain that you're describing and that you went through. And then they're coming along to your solution of how you've cracked the problem. And that they come to the conclusion themselves of the value of it. And that improved the conversion. So the epiphany bridge.
Can I ask you a huge favor? Can you repeat what those 4 things were? It was like you said. So what was it?
The four ads.
Yeah.
So they did a 5 ad series, 5 email series.
Yep.
4 of those would add value to the customer's stage of business, because you have or stage of their journey, the customer journey. The customer's trying to get to somewhere. They're trying to get some job to be done. Your goal as an entrepreneur or marketer is to understand what job they're trying to get done. And your job is not just to sell them a product, you're selling them a solution to do that job. So in the 4 emails.
It either like helps lower the risk. What were the
fast? So it speeds up their journey.
Yeah.
So it's faster to get there. That's a great, people are looking for speed, they're impatient. Second thing is lower costs. And that doesn't mean budget lowest cost, but ways to save money and doing it along that journey. Fast, low cost, easier. Easier means I don't need external resources or lots of other things. I can apply it easier. So that's you do that by, explaining it in a way that your customers know how to implement it. Or least risk. Least risk means, I'm not betting the house on how to do that job. So fast, easy, low cost, least risk. The 4 things.
I just wanted you to repeat those, because I not only will we like just cut, like I'm gonna pop that somewhere else, but also just because like you were so fluent with it, you were like pop, 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 and I thought, man, I just want to make sure I really retain that knowledge, because it's very valuable, I think. In our storytelling, which is such a great way to all have an authentic relationship with our customers, which is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's an important question. Often we go through things, I found when I'm coaching my clients, they're doing things without stopping and reflecting. And when they're reflecting, we're not giving ourselves the context from which to judge things from. And so that's why I always ask them to go, okay, what's fast? When you're reflecting, reflect on what are the things that you could do differently to make it faster, easier, lower cost, least risk. When you have that context, and you let that sit in your mind, and you let that go throughout your day, for some reason, the subconscious finds the solution. So you're giving the subconscious the programming to find me fast, easy, low cost, least risk. The idea pops in, and then you've got the solution to unblock them. That's why I apply that technique.
Yeah, I love that. It's so great. And then we've just been getting, okay. And then, so there's a follow-up question here. It says, interesting stuff. What's in the 5th email?
The 5th email is an offer. So I'm glad you asked. It's an offer. And they did this technique. So you do 4 things that add value, then you'd have your offer. But the way they did an offer, they did something called an offer stack. An offer stack there's a couple of different ways to do it. An offer stack is where you bundle in other products that are no cost for you to add to it, so adding value, and you offer the bundle, not your individual product. And by offering a bundle in the offer, you differentiate yourself to your competitors, because your competitors might be selling flowers, for example, same as you, but the difference is you're selling flowers plus the bow, plus the nice packaging, plus the poem, plus the ebook. So you're adding all those things together, and that's what makes you different. So then when the consumer's deciding between two competitors, who do I purchase, the value's over with you because you've got these additional things. So that's what's in the 5th email, is the offer stack.
Cool. Another question here is, what is the time difference between each email, please? Great question, Nella.
Yeah, that varies. A lot of them, and where it's moved to now is sooner. So now they're doing, it depends on what you're doing in your e-commerce. There's a thing called abandoned cart. That's where someone comes in, purchase, knows your product, goes to purchase, put it in the cart, and then they might get an interruption. The kids are running around, someone calls them on the phone and they forget, they shut down the browser and they've abandoned you. Like those are, you've got to focus on how do you get them. So an abandoned cart, one way is you can send them emails to saying, hey, your order's still here. You can purchase it if you want. Now those emails, the frequency is fast. So you do one at 1 hour after they left the abandoned cart. You do another one at 2 hours. You do another one at 3 hours. And so and then you might do one at 24 hours later. So that frequency is different. Whereas the stories, it depends on your target market, but most people screen out emails. And I'm a big fan of doing more, sending more emails, sending them more often. So not one a week, like 2 or 3. And with the view, and this is what data showed us, is that people that didn't open up email 1 or 2, it got lost in the inbox, inbox craziness, but they picked up email 3.
That's a good point, because we talk about that a lot as well. Like Glenn from Spike, he's our MailChimp power partner, and he kind of always says, less, more often, less content, send them more often. That's exactly what you're saying. So now we're hearing it again, guys. Like, here we go. We are going to have to get into this. So that's awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying thank you, Nella. Beautiful. And I think that's a really good point. And that ties into that abandoned cart, that ties into our pixel kind of situation as well, because if folks always are like, how does Facebook know what I've been looking at online? That's your pixels that are following you around. They've seen what you've gone to people's carts and you've looked at these things and you were going to buy or whatever, and then those items follow you around. And that's just about getting a code into your website and attaching that so that when they do shop, you follow them. So
it's big brother.
But really 30%, statistics say that 30% of sales occur from those advertisements following you around. So they're really worth it. Similar business plan, similar business strategy, and 3 tactics. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. She's just doing a follow-up for me because we want to do a follow-up session. So thank you. Sorry. That was just
email marketing. A lot of the e-commerce gurus, they generate between 30 to 40% of their total revenue. So total revenue from their store or their business comes from email marketing. So it's huge, 30 to 40%. So if you're not doing email marketing now, like that is worthwhile investment. I don't know who specializes in teaching that you've interviewed before, but out there, if you're watching, probably watch that and add that stuff in, because 30 to 40% is sitting out there in that.
Yeah, that's quite a large number as well. I'm just popping my details here into the chat just because they want to do some follow-up sessions based on what you said. So I just want to make sure that I understand what people are looking for. So I apologize. Normally my video is off, so I can do all of this. So I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I can chat away while you're doing that on different things. I know we've got a few minutes left.
Yep. Yeah, I will do this now. Yay. Good job. Yeah, get into it. Another comment here saying, thank you so much for today. A brilliant speaker with fantastic information. Cannot wait to hear more. Learned so much. Great. Yeah, that's cool. Laura, I'll connect with you after the session. I think that would be great. And I'm just going to jump onto Facebook. It looks like I'm looking around and not paying attention, but I'm actually just jumping from platform to platform.
You're multitasking. I'm terrible at it.
So there's another comment here just saying interesting with the looking glass. So much great information coming through from you, Travis. Look, we really enjoyed this session, and I know we had a previous session that we didn't kind of get to because we had some time change things. Oh, yeah. And so then, can I get your Insta name again?
Yeah, sure. It's Travis, Travis, Travis O'Keefe, OKEEFE, NZ.
Okay.
Infidelity Z.
I popped it in the chat for all y'all to have.
DM me.
Yeah, DM him. That's awesome that you've extended that. We really appreciate it. Another comment. Awesome session. Thanks. I'd love to try and set something else up with you, Travis. I'm not sure if we set up 3 sessions or we did 2, but maybe we could move that one back.
Just holler out.
Dive in a little bit deeper into some of these topics.
I can
dive.
Folks
are wanting. So
yeah.
Really
happy to dive deep. Yep. I can talk about the other projects as well. I can talk about Amazon, because we have a private label Amazon business where we manufacture goods and sell them via Amazon. We've got a lot of experience and heartaches in that area.
Yeah, that would be really good, because we are going to have them on as well. And I think that it's always a different perspective from somebody who's done the journey as a customer, I guess you'd say, like as a provider, as using the platform versus the people from the platform actually talking about the products. It's a very different chat. So that would be amazing, actually.
Probably complimentary. Hearing it from the provider and then hearing it from someone who's had heartaches.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yes. Okay, cool. That's going to be it for us today, folks. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Our DV funnel. You guys are fantastic. Oh my God, I would love to expand outside NZ. We can do this. So we can do it together. Everyone have a fantastic day. Kakite. Kakite. And look, I bet it's nice to be in like a little bit of Aotearoa here with you this morning. I'm sure you're missing home. So you stay safe. And so much aloha to you, Travis, and thank you so much for coming on. So everyone, I'll see you folks tomorrow, and have a wonderful day. Stay safe. See you next time. Kakite, bye.